Brill. Thank you very much. Yes, good afternoon, everybody. A very warm welcome to this webinar, this informational webinar on our Social Leaders Cornwall program, which is our place-based program. I'll introduce myself briefly and then talk you through the plan before handing over to some other colleagues in the space. So my name's Amit Chadha. I'm the Director of Programs at Claw Social Leadership, and I work with our wonderful team to design and deliver a whole range of programs supporting social sector leaders working either in place-based, theme-specific, social cause-specific. We also reach a range of particular audiences and leaders from specific backgrounds. So just to give a little bit of introduction to the session, I'm going to talk just briefly about who we are, why we exist, what we do, why we think it's really important, and then give you some information about our really exciting new program, Social Leaders Cornwall, which is our first place-based program in this area specifically. And then there's an opportunity to ask questions, but we'll also drop in our program's email address so that after the webinar, you can just ping us an email if anything that comes up or you want another chat. We'd be really happy to support you with that. So if you're not familiar with Claw, we're incredibly passionate about creating positive social change. That's why we exist. But we believe that really good, well-developed, nurtured and empowered leaders is crucial in ensuring that happens. So good leadership is important in enabling the change that we want to see. And that's why we exist. We focus all of our energy creating these programs to support in a personalized, fresh, innovative way leaders on their journey of social change. And we do believe that it's a post-program journey too. So as well as the programs, whether it's a 4 or 9-month program that we deliver, there's the post-program networks and support that are really important to everything we do. And we have a growing, fantastic network of Claw fellows. Ailish, who I'll introduce you to shortly, is one of those, and we'll talk a bit about their experience. But that's a really important part of what we do. Also, we believe that everyone is a leader. Everyone has within their sphere of influence the ability to make change, whether that's in a really obvious, prominent way, in a what we might consider to be a traditional leadership role. Actually, we seek to try and understand what leadership can look like in a whole range of roles and a whole range of different levels, and enabling change makers in all kinds of settings and all kinds of roles. I've mentioned, for us, this is what we believe in. Good leadership is crucial for making social change happen. But also we exist to try and normalize a culture of really, really high quality leadership development for leaders in the social sector and third sector, especially because we know that that's something that we need to get better at, and we're passionate about making that happen. So a little bit about this program. So we have had lots of experience with lots of place-based programs, and we're developing a number that will be kind of launched over the coming year or two. One that we're really happy to have launched a couple of months ago is, of course, Social Leaders Cornwall. And our focus really, and this kind of comes back to the belief I mentioned at the beginning, is really giving leaders what they need in a way that speaks to their experiences, but also the needs and experiences of the communities that they're serving. There isn't a template of what good leadership should look like that we can just roll out. It's really important that we seek to understand the realities and the needs and the challenges of all kinds of social and voluntary sector leaders within their settings, because as we know, geography, the needs of communities plays a huge part in that. So we have been funded by the Henry Smith Foundation to offer this fully funded program, which is incredibly exciting. And we'll be doing this in partnership with place-based local partners, again, to ensure that the design process has been shared, has been co-constructed, again, to ensure that the realities and needs of those social and voluntary sectors leaders in Cornwall are really seen and heard and brought into the program design. We might have, I'm not sure if Kate has arrived on
Yeah,
the
I'm
call.
here.
Oh, fantastic. I'm going to hand over to Kate from Cornwall VSF. I can't see you on the screen, but would you be happy to talk a little bit about the program and your involvement?
Yeah, of course.
Fantastic.
So I came into the loop a little while ago. So CCF introduced us to the team at Claw a few months back, and we absolutely jumped at the chance to work with them. So one of the reasons we were brought in as a partner on getting this program up and running is because of our role with the Learning Academy and the infrastructure support to the sector. So I was brought into VSF in 2022 because of my background in workforce development, and then skills programs around leadership and management, NEETs, and apprenticeships. So VSF wanted to really develop the Learning Academy. As we were coming off the back of the pandemic, it was a funny time for skills offerings. So what we decided to do is offer the Learning Academy as a personalised, tailored funding subsidy so that organisations could do their own training needs assessments. And really that has evolved over the time that I've been with VSF. So we're now looking at, we're still, whilst Cornwall's got a really vibrant and dynamic community, we've still got some quite profound socioeconomic challenges, environmental challenges that we need to tackle. And obviously everybody on this call knows that our sector has a really big role in addressing those challenges moving forward. But at the same time, we've got considerable funding challenges where we're in a much more competitive environment. So that makes the role of leaders, regardless of what level they are at the organisation, that much more important. Taking and seizing the opportunities that those challenges will create moving forward and finding innovative ways to actually make sure that the sector seizes those. So some of those reasons that we are hoping that this programme will be really important, will be looking at things like strengthening governance within organisations, attracting and developing new talent and new leaders within the sector, and then taking those that are already within the sector and getting them to the level that they can be at, finding routes through the sector for skill sharing, peer support, those kinds of things. This program should be amazing at developing local support of like-minded people who have got something to offer each other around their leadership journeys. And then looking to the things that we need for the future, for our sector to be strengthened in Cornwall, like digital fluency, how we share data, how we collaborate together to actually really make the skills have a systematic change within our sector, within our place. And then the final thing is, looking to things like how do we income generate in the future and make the most of the income that we have. And one of the things I've seen with amazing leadership programs in the past is how that critical friend feedback can really help us get to the next place. So using those knowledge, skills and behaviours that you'll hopefully develop through this programme to actually help you and your organisations fulfil the potential of the opportunities that arise in the future. So really, that's essentially all I wanted to say. It really fits in with the themes of what we're trying to achieve locally by bringing together. We're actually setting up, VSF is going to be setting up a workforce development alliance, which we're hoping will attract leaders from organisations. So not necessarily, your most senior leaders, but leaders throughout organisations that are wanting to contribute to developing a strategy for the sector that looks at everything from education and careers options right the way through to the well-being of our teams. So hopefully people who are going through this program, who do end up going through the program, will keep that in mind and maybe approach me if they've got any interest in being a part of a workforce development alliance.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much, Kate. That's really important context. Thank you very much for kind of painting that picture. Cool. Okay. I'm just going to talk you through the program kind of components. So I'll talk a little bit about applications and the close date, but we will be starting the program in September, and that will see us through to June. So it's a 9-month program, and you'll see some of the core components here that I'm just going to briefly explain so you can get an understanding of some of the modes and approaches to learning that you might experience if you're on the program. It's blended, so there's lots of opportunities to meet in person, but also online as well. And we've also worked with partners to understand what things like access and transport mean in terms of how we can approach the design and how we kind of structure sessions. But we start with an in-person session so that you can meet other participants, get to know your facilitator, and we start the program with a self-guided online module that we call Discover, which basically introduces you to the core social leadership model, but also the capabilities framework that we use to anchor all of our program design and learning and development. It's worked really, really well, and it's the kind of model that can be applied in a whole range of contexts with different kinds of lenses and case studies to bring that to life. There'll be a couple of what we call live classrooms during that 4 week period where you're facilitated through some reflection on what you've learned through that online module. You don't go straight into the 360 feedback. This isn't perfectly sequenced, but there will be an opportunity as a useful tool to, with support in terms of understanding how to interpret and use the findings of the 360 feedback, recognizing that these are perspectives. That will be kind of started within the first couple of months, and then the findings from that survey brought into your reflections throughout the 9 months. Throughout those months, there'll be 3 online 3-hour sessions, and they might be themed, so covering some of those important needs and leadership capabilities, sorry, that Kate mentioned. It might be that there's a specific session that we bring in an expert voice for, or that it might be facilitated by the program facilitator online. A couple of months in, so around 3 months in, there's a residential. And in our experience, this has been a really rich and kind of valuable experience for participants to come together to kind of really have permission to switch off from the demands of the role and to connect and learn and to invest time and energy in yourselves. And so the residential involves a whole range of activities. We'll hear from speakers, but also getting into what we call Luminous Spark. Luminous Spark you might be familiar with. It's a personality kind of tool. It's a bit more complicated than that, but it's a really powerful tool that can help us understand as leaders what our kind of natural traits might be that we lean into, but in a really complex, nuanced way, helping us understand what other approaches we might take when navigating change or challenge or leading teams and organizations. It's in that residential that you'll spend a good chunk of time really getting to know what your Lumina portrait looks like and then what that means for you in your kind of ongoing journeys as leaders. Also, just a really lovely time to connect. And I think Kate's point about actually collaborating, co-constructing, developing networks is really, really important and a really re-energizing thing, I think, despite especially kind of given constant change that we're all experiencing. So the residential is a really important component to bring everyone together. We will have action learning facilitators, and action learning, you might be familiar with it. It's a small group coaching style of learning where you kind of collaboratively solve real work problems, drawing on the learning and the tools that you'll have developed and accumulated at that point. So there'll be a number of those facilitated throughout. So that's really bringing the learning to life in a way that's real for you and your needs and your organizational challenges. You'll also have 3 coaching sessions with an individual coach, as well as these group learning experiences throughout. And we'll finish with a celebration, an opportunity to consolidate in person your learning from the program, and to really reflect on and celebrate the progress, the learning, the connections that you'll have fostered over the 9 months. That is a whistle-stop tour, and if you haven't had a look at our website yet, there's a page which breaks this down a little bit more, so you'll have that as a bit of a one-stop shop. But this gives you a sense of the hybrid approach, gives you a sense of which bits are in person. So that's the welcome, the residential, and the celebration. There are 3 moments that are in person. Everything else will be online. And as I say, it's a September to June 2026 9-month program experience. Just to kind of add some of the key themes to what Kate has mentioned, some really important themes that will absolutely be covered. Some of them are kind of captured within these sort of higher level areas, but some of the things that we'll absolutely be thinking about is what does strategic leadership really look like and mean, and how do we start to think in a systems change way? What does that mean? How do we do that? there's a real focus, and this is integrated in the style of our program and facilitation, including the residential, which is an opportunity to switch off. So there's nurturing that the importance of resilience and well-being in leaders, but also talking explicitly about how do we do that? How do we manage what we're expected to do in a way that is kind and sustainable? And then the point around funders, different funding models, how do we build partnerships, and how do we do that in a way that will lead to success, but that's kind of rooted in the realities of our place-based experiences. So those are some of the key learning themes. That's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Ailish, who is an alumni of ours, and she's going to talk a bit about her experience on another place-based program. Over to you.
Hello. Um, yes, I totally forgot to put that photo on there, and that's awful. So I'm Ailish. I'm actually based in Middlesbrough. So a lot about what you're talking about for Cornwall is it actually sounds really, really similar to what we're doing, but we're very, very far away and we've got like different situations going on here. So I work for a youth organisation called Links Youth Project, and we're based in the centre of Middlesbrough, which is highly deprived. So we've got a lot of issues around like loneliness with young people, poverty, and issues all around that. So when I first joined the CLAW social leadership program, well, we've just done our celebration event just last week, so we're just right at the back end of it. I put my expression of interest in on my application in June, and then had one of these meetings as well this time last year. And like I say, I'm just coming to the end. We're just having our last action learning set tomorrow, and then that's it, done. And it's really, really sad actually that it's come to an end, and we're all in a WhatsApp group together. And I know, like, I remember when somebody said that to me right at the beginning, I was like, oh, no way. But actually, like, the relationship that we've all got is so good because it's created some really good partnerships between each other. I don't know if you have like people in this call that you already know, but I went into my first the welcome day, and I was so nervous. I wasn't sure who was going to be in it, in terms of the other people from like Sunderland area that I'd never met before. But actually there was people on the course who I did know, and that made me more nervous because we quite often have this like competition between different organizations. I'm not sure if it's the same for you guys, but this leadership course totally broke that down and gave us like a bit of a vulnerability, made us more able to ask each other questions, became a support network for each other rather than this constant competition trying to fight for funding all of the time. And like what Kate just said about like the alliance that the VSF are going to create, we've now got something similar in Middlesbrough and in different areas of the northeast as well. And I can't express highly enough that that is so useful. And coming from the CLAW leadership course as well has really, really strengthened that. And we're now having more difficult conversations with each other, but in a really supportive way. It's really been helpful from that sense. The people who run the course with me were different youth organisations. There was other charities. There was founders. There was board members. There was CEOs, deputy CEOs, and I was just gone into the role as an operations manager. So it was all very, very new to me. When I must have been in the job for about a month as an operations manager, the first time in that sort of leadership role. So this was my opportunity to learn how to be a leader from like very fresh new eyes type of thing. And actually, just last week, I was promoted to deputy CEO, and I really don't think that would have been possible without actually being on this course. In my interview, I mentioned a lot about the development that I've had through CLAW and through understanding myself as a leader, everything that I've been able to implement throughout the course as well. I've taken it on like very, very literally, very practically, because if you go into it like quite vague, I don't think you're going to get as much out of it. You've really got to put your walls down and expose yourself a little bit, talk about yourself in real terms, and this is for you, not just for the organization. This is like for you to take for the future, and you potentially won't get another opportunity like this. And I can't express like how obviously this has had such an impact on my career. It has on my peers as well who've been on the course too, whether that be like some of them have realised that their role wasn't quite right for them, their organisation that they were with wasn't quite right for them, and they wouldn't have been able to make those decisions without having the core leadership sort of nudging them in the right direction. I like I say, I was new into the role, so I'd already had experience with managing staff, but going into the action learning sets where I was able to talk about difficulties that I was having or challenges that were very specific to how do I deal with this type of thing, that's what I found the most beneficial, the action learning sets. A lot of my peers on the course also said the Luminous Spark was their favourite part, and it's really illuminating. It's great. And we, like I said, we just had our celebration event just last week, and we were reflecting on what our favourite bits were, what the most important parts of it was. And we kind of said, like, going into the Luminous Spark on that residential, we thought it was going to be, we're going to be told this is what you should be. It's in like colours as like personality profiles. We thought we were going to be told you need to be a red because you're a leader and you need to make these really difficult decisions. But actually, it was learning about this is who you are as a leader, and that's okay. And it was so great to understand myself a little bit better. And everybody else on the course said the same about you understand yourself as a leader rather than being told this is what a leader should be. And you develop yourself in that way. The other part was I'm not sure if you're going to do it. I imagine you will do the letter to yourself. Yeah, so I would say definitely do it. I didn't do it, I don't think, because it's never come back around to me. But we shared our letters to each other in the celebration event last week, and it was just so amazing listening to everybody's letters that they wrote right at the beginning of the you'll get like an email in a few weeks to say like write a letter to yourself, who you want to be or what you expect from yourself in June next year. And I think you'll be quite surprised with your progress when you do read that back. And that's something that I want to continue to do away from this anyway, maybe like every 3 or 5 months, give myself a little email as like a scheduled email to myself. What I also learned on the course was that everybody is really quite similar. Everybody's in a similar situation. You're not on your own with any of these challenges or difficulties that you're facing. A lot of the conversations that we had were about burnout. That seemed to be like a very common theme across all of the organisations that were included. Access to buildings. A lot of the charities don't have their own building, and how do we do that? And we're there as like a supporting network to get each other to help each other out. Essentially, we shared a lot of information around different funding that was out there, how we've actually now started an application process together as part of this, because we all loved Luminous Spark so much that we actually thought, well, why? Because it can be quite expensive if you've got a small organisation. So we're all putting in a funding bid so that we can all have our other staff members to be on Luminous Spark as well. Because we just found it so beneficial to have that understanding of yourself, and we wanted our team members to have that too. I think I've covered a lot of stuff there. My favourite bits being the action learning sets, the Luminous Spark profile. and hearing everybody else's letters to themselves. But the one-to-one coaching as well, you only get 3 hours, like 3 1-hour sessions. And my advice for that would be to go in with something that you want to talk about. Don't expect them to dig around because you haven't got enough time to really do that in your coaching session. Go in with a problem and come out with a solution is what I would advise on that. Have I covered everything?
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to hear what you got from it, but also some advice on kind of making the most of it for others that might be in the program. Like, amazing. Also, congratulations on your promotion. Yeah, it was lovely to hear all of that. I'm so glad that you got so much from it. So I will whiz through just some next steps, and I think in the interest of time, because we're all squeezing this into the workday, we will finish at 1. Randolph, if you wouldn't mind putting the program's email address in the chat so that colleagues can email us with any questions if there are things that haven't been answered here. But we have 25 places available for the program. It's aimed at what we call emerging leaders, which fits with our kind of tier at the moment, which we have a range of tiers for different leaders at different levels. But emerging leaders are all kinds of non-profit, voluntary, social, charity organizations. So we're looking at 3+ years of some kind of leadership role, whether that's within an organization or of a team. If you want to talk about that or have any questions around suitability, we're really happy to answer any questions, and ping us an email and we'll set up a little call and we can kind of get a sense of your experience and whether this is the right fit for you, because it's important that it does speak to you and your experience and needs. So 3+ years, usually between 3 and 6 years is what we have for participants on the Emerging Leaders program. The deadline for applications is on Tuesday, the 22nd of July. Right at the end of the day, and then you'll hear from us on outcomes by the 31st, so a week later. And then once you've heard from us, if you are successful, you'll hear from us on the next steps and timings. So we've covered the components. We've heard from the wonderful Katie and Ailish on purpose, context, and how the program has kind of benefited previous participants. I am mindful of time, but please do let us know if you've got any questions. I don't want to leave any of these unanswered. But a huge thanks to Kate, to Ailish. Thank you, Randolph, for supporting. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. Do get in touch if you have any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.